I'm an explorer of the outer world and the inner world. And as I explore more, they move closer and closer. I've traveled in a lot of countries, in extreme environments and so on, and yet I feel more and more the main issue here is that all life is interconnected. You are a part. I am a part. The atoms inside the camera are a part of something much bigger. In fact, the company that made those atoms, they make sunrises, they make consciousness, they make springtime, volcanoes, galaxies. This is a very professional company, right? I'm just being a little humoristic here, because you can also get very serious. But we are interconnected. And the media are not broadcasting very much about that. So if you ask me about my character, I'm an instrument of something bigger. I'm a part of something bigger. When I was about 5, this is my first memory from this life, I was running along a beach and I wanted to jump into the sun. Because there is inside me cells containing atoms that if you split them they will become light. We are light beings. So the external light, the sun, it reminds me of something. And many people who have had near-death experiences, they explain that they come into a big light. And Tibetans have talked about it and so on. So, another example, when I was about 17, before going to the university, I went down to the Sahara alone. And the road ended and I just started walking. My intention was to go into the desert, the mountains of sand. And there were, after many hours, I found 3 Bedouins sitting there. And they understood what I really wanted. I didn't have to say much. They had 4 camels, not 3, but 4. And so we packed blankets, oranges and water and took off. Because in the back you could see the mountains of sand. And it gets cold around 6 o'clock, it gets very dark. We built a little fire. And there we were, these 4 beings sitting around a fire, locked together in space and time. These 4 destinies, these 4 cells, beings, and in the desert the silence is like thunder. It is not the absence of sound, it's the presence. And above us were these billions of stars, right? And there we are, sitting interlocked in a destiny, and I was feeling underneath the earth are just as many stars. We're in a huge space, we're on a very big journey here. So not only the stars above, but below the earth, on the other side of the earth, are also stars. And I felt connected. And all through the night we were just sitting there under the stars, right? Not sleeping. And then in the beginning of the morning, the eastern sky becomes a little lighter. And we say that the sun rises. The sun doesn't rise. The earth turns. And I could feel it. I was sitting on this planet and it started turning, and then the first rays of sun hit my eyes, coming over the edge of the earth. Right? And at that moment, you're asking me about moments, at that moment I knew, okay, I'm connected to something incredible. Incredible. And that moment I knew this is what I want in my life. More of this. Or that there should be a separation between my work and my life. Because things are connected. For that, somehow I felt it. So I never, felt that I was going to fit into a pre-described job description. In fact, I remember one time in the school, the teacher came with a box of cards showing what you could become, an architect or a bus driver or but explorer, no, that's not part of the menu, especially not an explorer of life. And so I started filming quite early because I was fascinated by the power of the image to communicate more than words. And so I met other people who were also fascinated by the power of the media. And this was before digital photography. This was films, celluloid, which most people don't know today. And we would go around, we would film, but mainly alone. I would travel around the world filming and taking pictures and doing interviews and so on, with indigenous people, with film people, etc. Because I felt that in my life, I want to communicate that there is a bigger picture. Yes, there is a frame, but there's also something outside the frame. And the frame is our mind, that wants to control life. But the ocean is more than the waves. And so, after traveling a lot, it became clear that this was how I was doing what I felt. My intuition was telling me. And I think that the authentic choice, the way that you navigate through your life, or I navigate, is following an inner compass. And it points, this way or that way. But there is a knowing, in me at least, and I think in everybody, we have an intuition. And to listen to that is very important. Because the messages from the media are very confusing. They're telling you to consume more, to look different, to be different, whatever. They're not telling you to follow your intuition. So I've been doing that. I've also, done many other things in terms of international documentary films, like for example in Denmark, where I was born, the national TV, they put on a Saturday night special 3-hour peak time with 3 of my films, which had never happened before. And I could understand that there is a need, but there are very few films that deal with consciousness, with awareness, with exploring our human potential. And at that time, I made a film called Now, A Moment on Earth, about the search for happiness in different cultures. I traveled around the world and I asked people, what is most important in your life? What is most important in your life? And it played for months in the cinema as, a 35mm film, which never happened before. So I concluded, if you can talk about that there is a great need for films and programs and media that are inspiring, that are not focused on just consuming and entertaining, but something, a bigger picture. I think the most important learning we can have is that we are part of nature. We're not separate. I can give an example. Some time ago I went to Colorado and there was a group of young Japanese people between 17 and 25 years old who had come to learn more about nature, about sustainable living, about sustainable architecture, ecological gardening, and so on, as part of a training called Earth Restoration Corps in Colorado. Okay. For 3 weeks they were given basic introduction to these things, and then the last week we went up high in the mountains. It was called Wilderness Solo. And on the first evening we were sitting around a fire by a mountain lake at about 3,000 meters, right? And then Chief Red Cloud's grandson, an American Indian, a chief, he came and he began to talk to the young people about all your relations, your flying relations, your four-legged relations, your swimming relations, because the whole area was full of mountain lions, pumas, eagles, bears, snakes. Serious environment. And I saw 2 pumas there. And so everybody, the young people, were given an instruction to take their sleeping bag and a little cover, bivouac, and go and find a place to sleep alone, very far from anybody else, in real life. And they had never, none of them had ever spent a night under the stars, right? I love it, so I've done it a lot. But, so everybody went out. And next morning they came back, we met by the lake, and I interviewed them. And one by one, they said, I have learned more during this one night than all my years in school. Well, let's just start here. Here we are, we're breathing. The amount of processes going on right now for you to see, for you to hear, for you to feel. Millions of processes are happening. Your cells are being renewed. You are able to perceive heat and light and feelings, and even if somebody comes into the room behind you, you can feel it even though you can't see it. Birds can fly from the North Pole to the South Pole without any GPS. It is a real miracle to be alive now. To me, that is such a message of hope, because it is easy to wake up in the morning and just do what you usually do, without appreciating the gift it is to be alive. It's not like that when you go to bed tonight that you will plug in a wire into the wall to keep you alive while you're sleeping. No, something is keeping you alive. That energy, because it will leave you, it will leave me, like if at this very moment I died and you died too, we would, everybody would be here, but something would have been gone. So for me, when I feel alive, when I feel the breath coming in and the breath coming out, it is a gift. It is the ultimate gift. And it's so simple that we take it for granted. But if you have ever experienced, that you are suddenly, like for example, in the city, if you walk out on the street and you're just about to get hit by a car, you suddenly realize, I could be all over. Then you appreciate your life for a few minutes. I think that to appreciate your life gives hope, because other people will recognize it. We're not alone, It is the same energy that is keeping you alive, which is keeping me alive. And let us celebrate that. Let us use the media to broadcast more about that energy that makes everything possible. Amongst explorers, like in Denmark we have something called the Adventurers Club. It is mainly about exploring the outer world. But amongst the inner explorers, there's quite a few now who have stepped forth. I did an interview with, for example, with Dalai Lama. You can call him much more than an explorer, right? Or with even Gorbachov, who was a politician. In many ways, he was ahead of his time. He could feel that the old system was not going to last. So he opened the gates somehow for something. And with Dalai Lama, it's the same. He has opened some gates. A lot of people can recognize that violence is not an option if you really want a peaceful world. Right? But if you're asking me about interviews, I think that I have intuitively been drawn to those people who are authentic, who are not trying to fit into an established system necessarily. And so, for example, with indigenous people, like this summer I was in Peru and in the Amazon, and I interviewed several of these indigenous people living there, and they're very concerned about what is happening to Mother Nature. I was asking them about the effect of the Western civilization, because many of these shamans or these medicine men, their own children, many times are going into the cities. They don't want to stay out in the jungle. They want to go, drink beer and have cars and the whole thing. So what happens when all the wisdom which has been accumulated through thousands of years of the indigenous people living on the planet, with the planet, what happens when that disappears? We will have many, many gigabytes of information on our computers, but will we have wisdom? Enough wisdom to be able to create a sustainable world. And this is where the actual experience of nature becomes essential. Because you cannot read about nature only. It's fine, but you need also the experience. So, those interviews I've done with indigenous people have been very inspiring, because I could feel that they are expressing something very deep, something very ancient, a message which we need to hear, that what we do to the earth we do to ourselves.
A sudden fear of the unknown creates an aura that wraps me in darkness.